All right, I want to welcome on my next guest. We got former first-team All-Pro, Pro Bowl, Philadelphia Eagles standout cornerback Bobby Taylor. Bobby, how's everything going?
I'm doing good, Zach. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Finally, looks like football's starting to come back. I'm hoping all the guys can stay safe, but
right.
I guess we're just going to have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my fingers are crossed. I mean, we all are living in a different day now with the pandemic going on, but it seems like, after the first couple of weeks, things are going pretty good in the NFL. And so hopefully, it can keep going in that direction because, I mean, the possibilities of not having NFL football this fall, I mean, that'll be very devastating.
So what I want to know is the CFL still happening? And if not, they should just have everybody play up there because it's safe. The hockey, they're having a great time.
I know, right? Yeah, I just saw a report where they haven't had a positive test in 4 or 5 weeks, right?
It's wild. Now I'm hoping I'm feeling all the guys are gonna hold themselves accountable. The only thing I'm concerned about is they're not testing family members. And if the guys are going home and if kids are going to school, some of these top health experts have been gotten sick. It's not being that responsible. You can't predict it, and there's so much unpredictability. I'm hoping the NFL can get a handle on it because we really need.
That's the part that that I'm scared as well, because when you look at how the NBA is going, I mean, they're obviously in a bubble.
Yeah.
And when you look at an NFL organization and all 32 of them trying to put 32 organizations in a bubble, I mean, that's virtually impossible. And so, I just hope that guys are responsible enough. I mean, there was some bad news last week in Seattle, but, hopefully that could be a sounding board for any other guys that want to do something irresponsible, to know that, hey, your job could be in jeopardy. So, I just hope, like I said, guys are taking it seriously. And some of the reports that I read coming out of different camps, I've saw where some guys are deciding to not self-quarantine, but put themselves in a bubble and stay away from their families. And I know that's hard.
I really want to read the text thread that dude in Seattle sent to that girl, hey, just wear a hoodie, you'll be good. I think you're on scout team. You're good to go. Just to show up.
I mean, I'm like, okay, was it his? Did he use his own clothes to give to her? I mean, what was that all about?
This is training camp 2020. They won't even look. They'll be good to go. No, that's wild.
Right.
So I want to ask you, before I ask you about your football career, something I saw. You were on Cribs?
Yeah, I was on Cribs.
What was that like?
You know what? It was cool because that was obviously the thing to do at the time. But the only bad part of it's crazy, right? So they come in, and obviously the clip is probably maybe 5 or 6.
I can't find it. I've been looking all afternoon. I can't find it.
So it was probably only 5 or 7 minutes from a TV standpoint. But I mean, they spent all day at your house, and it was crazy because when we were filming, it was in the heat of it was in the summertime. And so I'm in Texas, and we had to have all the air conditioners on. They want all of the lights on, and I ended up blowing a circuit.
Wow!
And so they had to shut the shoot down and come back, and so they came back and we finished it. But I guess one of the other bad things about it on my episode, it was the same episode as the guy Branson that owned Virgin.
I saw Lil Jon was on there too.
Yeah, Lil Jon was first. The Branson guy, and he had a whole island. I mean, who wants to be
That's
on
not
that
fair.
episode?
That's not fair. Come on. You put me on third. This dude's got an island, and this dude's Lil Jon. Come on, man.
Exactly. But it was cool. It was something to talk about. It was good locker room talk once I went back to Philly.
Did MTV pay for the blown circuit, or they're like, nah, it's on you?
It was something that it was taken care of, so I didn't have to come out of pocket.
See, Cribs handles everything. Nah,
right?
See, honestly, Cribs, I miss Cribs. One of my favorite shows of all time, Pimp My Ride, was a classic. Pimp My Ride.
Yeah.
Bring that back. I know there was a lot of holdups, people weren't getting their car for 8 to 10 months at a time and stuff, but that was the perfect show. They got to bring that back. Man, that's what we need.
Yeah, Pimp My Ride, Cribs, and I think Punk'd. I like Punk'd.
Punk'd was great too. And Next, people slept on Next. The person would just walk off the bus, and the girl's like, nah, they just turned right back around. But Pimp My Ride. I remember the one guy here hey man, what he's like, we know you like snowballs or something. It was some old beat up minivan. It's we got a shaved ice machine.
Pimp My Ride was Exhibit, when he was a part of
Yeah,
that? Yeah,
yeah.
that was dope.
He'd come up and everybody would be like, "It's Exhibit," and then he'd be walking through these neighborhoods and be like this car that looks like it's been like in like a junkyard, and they're like, "Hey, we're not gonna do anything to the engine, but we're gonna give you like
Right.
we're gonna give you a gumball machine." It was fantastic. You can watch it now. It is so evergreen. It does not get old, even though it's wild. And then you get the shot of the person in the beginning acting surprised, even though they've probably done the shot 5 times.
Right.
20-minute show, even though they haven't seen the car in 8 months, and then they bring it back.
Yep.
And of course, their friends are there waiting for them to get the car back, because every time you go to the auto shop, your friends are waiting to get back to see
Right,
it.
like this is normal.
The great show. What's his Mad Mike? Mad Mike. I tried to reach out to him to see if he wanted to come on the podcast. I can't reach Mad Mike. Mad Mike. He's on LinkedIn. He's on LinkedIn. So yeah, no. So I want to ask you about your football career. How'd you end up at Notre Dame?
Yeah, so I was a big UT fan, being from Texas, right here in Texas. But during my senior year, they fired their head coach, McWilliamson, and they brought in, I think it was Makovic. And I just thought it was an unstable situation for me. And then, Coach Holtz, he came to my high school, visit me, and I took 4 visits. So I went to University of Miami because I was a big Jesse Armstead fan. He was from right up the street in Dallas, Texas, Dallas Carter High School. So I was always a Hurricane fan. So I went out there to visit Miami. I went to visit USC. One of my good friends, Willie McGinnis, he was my host. And so obviously I didn't go to USC, going to Notre Dame. Their arch rival. I mean, he always gives me flack about that, even to this day.
That's funny.
And then I visited Notre Dame, and then I went to one in-state school for my visit, Texas A&M. Oh. And I just felt, what Lou Holtz and what those guys had going on during that time. I mean, they were one of the only big schools that had their own television deal. As opposed to now, you can watch any college team on Saturdays, and so. That was a big deal as well, just knowing that my family probably wouldn't be able to get to games. So I felt like I can get the best of both worlds, academically and athletically.
Was that what really sold you on Notre Dame? How did you end up making your decision?
Yeah, because I was great from an academic standpoint, making the honor roll every grading period. Yeah. And so I just wanted to go to a university that I felt that could offer both, because how football is. I mean, you're one play away from it being the end of your career. Yeah. And then also just the experiences from talking to a lot of the guys that were already there. There were a lot of guys that were from all over the country, from Florida, from California, from Arizona, from Washington, that was at Notre Dame when I went on my visit. And so I just felt like that would be the best situation for me to be in.
Did you ever get to meet Rudy?
Yeah, it's crazy. So my sophomore year, when you look at the game footage that was going on during the actual movie, they actually filmed that during one of our games.
Really? I didn't know that.
So yeah, so I actually was playing in the game, and so it was kind of like an extended halftime where they asked all of the fans because from a player standpoint, we didn't even know it was happening, and we just heard the announcement going in for halftime that the halftime will be a little bit longer than normal. Both teams agreed upon it, and then they asked the fans to stay in the bleachers so they could film that part. So that was cool. So yeah, I got to meet him, and to actually be there when they actually filmed that portion of the movie, that was something to brag about.
They put you in the credits?
Nah.
What do you call that? Best supporting actor. You're good to go.
Possibly, right?
That's awesome. That's so cool. So what was it like? Was there an adjustment period to you from going from high school to Notre Dame to kind of get – it's probably just big culture.
You know what? I think the biggest adjustment was just from a regional standpoint, with like the weather is cold weather. Yeah. But outside of, from a competition standpoint, it was something that I felt that I would be able to mesh well with. Fortunately, I was able to start like midway through my freshman year. Cool. And, so I don't feel like it was a big adjustment. And that was one of the reasons why, just how big all of the guys were, not just maybe one or two players on the team, as opposed to maybe some of the teams that I competed against in high school. And plus in Texas, I feel like, outside of maybe California and Florida, we have some of the most competitive football being played right here in our state. So I think it was able to help me transfer to that next level.
That's awesome. Was the NFL on your radar at all, or were you just focused on school?
You know what? I was just focused on school until after my freshman year. And, you know, we were able to, which was cool. We were able to come back to Texas to play in the Cotton Bowl. So
cool.
we played against Texas A&M, which was one of the schools that I visited when I was a senior. And so I got to play against a lot of my peers, guys that, you know, I looked up to and I played against in my high school career. And then when the season was over, you know, you just hear about all these guys, this guy working out, this guy has an agent. And I'm like, man, what's really going on? I really had no clue. And then that year we actually had 5 guys get drafted into the first round.
Wow.
And so, you know, guys like Rick Meyer, Aaron Taylor, Tommy Carter, Irv Smith. I'm probably missing a couple other guys, and so I saw that. I was like, man, like I could possibly, you know, do what those guys were doing. And I think it was cool just because now, you know, in the society that we're living in, I speak to parents all the time as far as helping them make decisions for their children as far as like maybe what schools they want to go to. And they're already talking about the NFL. And I'm like, man, you have a lot more football to play before you should be thinking about the NFL. But, you know, that's just where we are in today's society. But, you know, I had no clue. My whole thing was, you know, I just want to be able to use what I have academically and athletically, so I didn't have to worry about student loans or anything like that. And so that was my main objective.
Interesting. So when did it kind of become center focus for you that like, all right, like this is real, like this is coming, the NFL?
Probably going into the spring after my freshman year. Like I said, seeing what took place during the draft and, you know, being a starter as well, I think, you know, that probably put a lot of confidence in me. And so, you know, from that point on, I just really just tried to, you know, carry myself on and off the field because, you know, when you talk to the guys that are going through the process, because guys would, and that was one good thing as well. We had a lot of those guys that would come back. I didn't go to school with Rocket Ismail, but he was like two years prior to me getting to Notre Dame. So he would always come back at the time and just talking about all of the things that, you know, maybe scouts, general managers look for, some of the questions that they ask, some of the things that some of the people that they go and talk to, they would go back and talk to some of their high school counselors and things of that nature because, you know, they're looking at it like, okay, we're bringing these young guys in, you know, we're going to be putting them in the spotlight, paying them a lot of money. So we want to try to find out as much about them as we can so we can try to make the best educated decision as far as who we should or shouldn't bring into our organization.
Definitely. So what was your draft process like? Did you have a feeling the Eagles were looking at you?
You know what? They were one of the teams that I visited. I visited the Eagles. I visited the Packers. I visited the Washington football team. I took a visit there.
What was that like?
You know what? Actually, that was probably one of the most interesting assessments, I would call it.
Well, that was before Snyder, though.
That was before Snyder. I can't remember who the head coach was. So my rookie year was 1995.
Maybe Gibbs there?
Was it Gibbs?
I don't remember.
No, I'm not sure. But they had this sports science guy, and he would take you through all of these type of drills. And he was an older guy, probably like in his 60s, you know, doing some balance stuff, covering your eyes up, standing behind you, throwing things from behind you to see if you can catch it. And I mean, it was like super, super, super weird.
He didn't even work there.
I'm not sure. I mean, after that, it was a head scratcher because I always look at, okay, from a workout standpoint, you should be doing drills that are transferable for when you're out there on the field. And so some of the things that they had me doing, I was just like, I mean, how can this make me a better football player?
And you wonder, you wonder why they're not hitting on all their picks.
Hey, I mean, listen, my thing, I hope that guy is still working for him.
I think he probably is, based on what we saw the past couple of years. But no,
Right.
that's interesting. No wonder, because Cravens, and then it's like, what the hell what they do? What's his name? The kid they got from TCU, Doxson. I'm like, oh, they're doing vision tests instead of 40 times. Makes sense.
It was weird, but you know what though? I like Ron Rivera.
He's awesome.
Ron was actually our linebackers coach.
Oh, cool.
For probably so I was in Philly for 9.
Yeah.
So I think maybe 7 of those years, Ron was the linebacker coach. So I know him well. He's a great man, a human being, period. Yeah. And so, you know, if he does well, if he's able to help lead that team do well, I'll be happy for him, because
Absolutely.
I'm a big Ron Rivera fan.
Yeah, he seems like a great guy. Now you can see he's already, like, all the stuff he's had to deal with before they even put pads on. I don't know there's a better person for the job than him. So I'm glad.
Absolutely. And plus, I mean, he's a former player too, so he has that experience on and off the field.
Yeah, I've been harping on for a while. I haven't seen him yet. I think they should make Potomac Riverboat Ron shirts, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's one of the most iconic nicknames, Riverboat Ron, and that's him. That's his mentality.
That's awesome. So how did you find out you're going to Philly?
Yeah, so I was actually invited to the draft, but there was something that because I grew up in a small town, Long Beach, Texas, and I just wanted to be back home. At the time, Ray Rhodes, he was the head coach. Tom Modrak was Dick Daniels was the general manager. They called me up and was like, "Hey, we're getting ready to actually trade up a couple of picks to get you. Like, are you excited about possibly playing in Philadelphia?" And I was like, "Listen, man, let's get it on. Like, make the pick." So they made the pick, and you know, the rest was history.
That's all. Did you have any idea what the Philadelphia fan base was like before you got there?
Absolutely not.
Because if you're on the team, they love you. If you're not,
what? I would disagree with that slightly.
Really?
Even being on the team, there are times that you feel like you are on the visitors team because, you know, there were some times during my first couple of years where, you know, we were only winning maybe 2, 3 games, 4 games for the entire season. And so, you know, so fans would be pretty rude. And,
in Philly?
Absolutely. Man, you come on now. You know, but hey, I know you know. I mean, listen, I was there when they actually brought in a judge and had a little small jailhouse in the actual
that was real? That was real?
That was real. That was totally real. It would be times during the game where where they have television timeouts because at the time, like the nosebleed section seemed like, I mean, it was in heaven. It was so high. And you would just see guys being thrown around. I mean, it was crazy. We would literally be talking to guys on the other team like, look at that. Just look at all that foolishness going on up there. I mean, it was insane.
Unbelievable. Do they have like the special team scouts? They were the ones kind of like maintaining the jail and stuff, or no? Who was? Do they had a legit judge?
It was like real police. Like real police. Like real police. Like and they stayed busy. They definitely stayed busy.
That's incredible. That needs its own show. MTV should have jumped on that too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, someone. I mean, I may need to talk to someone. That needs to be that definitely would be a great show.
Oh my God! Yeah, just include it like on Red Zone. You get Scott Hansen. Cut now to the Philadelphia, the link jailhouse. Now that's wild. So when did you kind of hit your groove? When did you feel like the NFL is coming easily to you?
You know, I wouldn't necessarily say it came easy, but it obviously slowed down. So in my 3rd year, I think that's when I was like really, really ascending. Yeah. And so they always come out with these polls like after the first quarter of the season, the second quarter, like who would, if the season ended at this time, who could potentially be a Pro Bowler?
Yeah.
And my name was getting some buzz at that time. We had an away game in Jacksonville, and I tore my ACL, and so I was done for the season. And so it was right about that time, and you know, maybe it was a blessing in disguise, who knows? But you know, it was obviously disappointing for me. But you know, from that point on, I was already, I think, getting my groove as far as film study because, you spend more time in the classroom as opposed to being out there on the football field. And so, that was something that, that I felt like I got a whole lot better at as far as being able to study film, being able to break down offenses, break down receivers, and try to get into the mindset of how offensive coordinators were thinking. And so probably at that time, like right when I tore my ACL and then shortly after that, when I was able to come back the following season, I would say. So probably in between like my third and fourth year, I felt like I was getting my groove.
What were you thinking then? Like, I'm finally starting to click, and then all of a sudden you tear your knee up. What was that like?
Yeah, it was obviously disappointing. At first, I was probably just feeling like, okay, why me? I think a lot of athletes probably go through that.
Yeah.
But we had some great veterans on the team, and there's always a success story as far as guys getting hurt and being able to come back. And so being able to like share that with other guys that may have went through the same injury or had something similar as far as their process of getting back to where they were and even trying to get better.
Yeah.
And so I just credit the veterans that we had on the team to try to help, get me back to in the right mindset, because that's the biggest part of it. Because I think physically, I probably may have been, ready to come back a little bit earlier, but there's always a mental block when you have those type of injuries or what have you. And so having some good veteran leadership on board on the Eagles at that time, that really helped me get over that hump.
That's awesome. Who's the toughest guy you ever had to cover in your whole career?
So the toughest guy I had to cover, probably like when folks ask me that question, sometimes people always assume like it's some of the Michael Irvins and guys like that. But those guys were definitely hard to cover. But with me being a big guy, I'm 6'3", 6'4", being able to cover another 6'3", 6'4" guy, that's easier for me as opposed to some of the short, quicker receivers like the Joey Galloways, the Rocket Ishmaels, who obviously went to Notre Dame. But at one time, Dallas, the Cowboys, they had Joey Galloway on one. That's a 4'1", 40 guy, and they had another 4'1", 40 guy, and Rocket Ishmael on the opposite side. So guys like that have always been tougher for me to cover just because of, they're smaller, they're a little bit quicker, and, I'm a taller, long strider. So those short, real quick guys have always been trouble for me to hold.
So Tyreek Hill would just wreck your whole Sunday.
Yeah, a guy like Tyreek, I would probably, if he ran an out route, just shoot at his lower legs a couple of times, just to send a little message.
Yeah.
And, as a defensive back, when you have a great rush, when you have great defensive linemen, and we had that at the time, and I think Riverboat Ron Rivera got some of his mentality from our defensive coordinator at the time, Jim Johnson, because he was a guy that, look, we either going to sit back or I'm sitting in the house. I'm not just going to blitz one or two guys. It was all or nothing. And I love that type of mentality. And I think our team as a whole, when we were the best during the time when I was there and we were able to get to 3 NFC championships in a row, we were a defensive-led ball club where we just went out there, we set the tone, we went on the road, we traveled well, we generated a lot of turnovers, and I think that was something that helped us during that time.
Who do you think is the best DB in the league today?
The best DB in the league today, man, that's a man. I like Minka Fitzpatrick.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah, I like him. He's a guy that I think could probably play, which he does, play inside, play outside. Probably can move him back to safety if need be. He can tackle well, physical, coming up on the run, the good ball hand-eye coordination. Who else did I like out there from a defensive back standpoint? Man, with me being an older guy, I'm gonna give I'm gonna give Richard Sherman some love just because of the total body of work he's been able to put up for so long. You know, leading the defense last year to help those guys get to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, they weren't able to bring it home. I was happy for my man Andy Reid to be able to get his first Super Bowl. So I would probably say Minka Fitzpatrick definitely, and then I would want to give Richard Sherman some love just because of the body of work that he's been able to put in. Plus, he's a big guy too. He's a 6'3", 6'4", 6'2", long guy like myself as well.
Were you glad to see Philly bring in Darius Slay this offseason? Because the secondary has been getting killed for years.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I was definitely glad to see that move. I'm looking forward to, you know, the success he could have there. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was probably happy as well to get out of Detroit to, you know, come to the Birds. He's around some familiar faces. I see Fletcher Cox is back healthy as well. And so, I mean, I just hope those guys can, you know, have a great season. I read a couple of articles when they started camp where I don't know if it was Rodney McLeod or something. He was just saying, well, look, we want to try to get back to the days where we had, you know, some of the old school guys like Brian Dawkins, Troy Vincent, or what have you, myself. And so, you know, I bleed green. I bleed green, and I just hope those guys, you know, put it down this year.
Do you think people are sleeping on Carson Wentz?
You know what? I wouldn't say sleeping. I think anytime, you know, when you have, you know, some of the unfortunate injuries he's had, I mean, it's only natural. And so, you know, my advice to him, I would just say, just use that as fuel to your fire. Yeah. You know, you can't say, well, look, this is what I did beforehand. Just use that as fuel to your fire, and you know, just try to be the best you can for us. I know that his teammates, you know, definitely support him. That the city in that area supports him and want to see him do well. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, he's doing the right thing. He's taking the right approach to have the best season that he can to hopefully bring back a Super Bowl game. Because just imagine, you're off to
he was incredible
MVP season. You get hurt, and the team still goes on and wins a Super Bowl. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, listen, I'll take it anyway. Yeah. I'll take the Super Bowl, but you know, I know that was probably hard for him to be able to have to sit through, but I'm pretty sure there are some experiences from that time he can pull on when it gets tough to help him get over.
Yeah, because as a teammate, you love to see these guys having all the success, but as a competitor, it's probably killing you inside. You can't.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, I mean, you want to be the one out there making the play. Yeah. And that's the mentality that I get from him. I mean, I don't know him personally, but that's the mentality that, you know, when I see some of the quotes and see some of the interviews that he's did over the years since he's been in the league. And, you know, it's okay to have some people to doubt you and sleep on you, because, you know, different folks thrive in different situations. Maybe it's easier for a person to not necessarily be the hunted and to be the one that, you know, people are doubting, and then you surprise them on the back end.
Definitely, yeah, because they brought Jason Peters back. That line's looking good, so hopefully they can stay intact. And so I have a question. So your Pro Bowl first team All-Pro year, what clicked for you?
What clicked for me? You know, I think what clicked for me is I was able to get more interceptions. I had a couple of returns that particular year for returns for touchdowns.
Did you keep those balls?
Oh, absolutely.
There we go.
They're probably back here somewhere.
Oh, cool.
Behind
I didn't
me.
see them. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely kept those. So I think as any defensive back from over history, I would say a lot of times when you make your first Pro Bowl, it's because you were able to rack up a lot of interceptions, because, you know, let's just say you shut down everybody for the entire year. Yeah. Sometimes people like numbers, and that's really not a number. I mean, I would love to have those numbers year in, year out from a consistency basis, but you know how it is. Just like when I mean, they say from a viewership standpoint, when teams are putting up more points and receivers are getting more 100-yard games and things of that nature, people are glued to the television more. So it's all about statistics.
Yeah. That's wild. That's incredible. Was the Pro Bowl in Hawaii that year?
Yeah, it was in
That's
Hawaii
not
that year.
bad.
So
That's not bad either.
yeah, so that was cool. It was a great experience. Being out there. I forgot the name of the resort, the Ihilani or something like that. And so it was, away from Honolulu. So we were by ourselves. You got a lot of time to spend with, your other peers, guys that you've been fans of, for all of your career, spending time with them and their families and things of that nature. So yeah, it was nice.
That was my one idea if they were trying to find a bubble for the NFL. I thought, what about like Hawaii? Like,
I mean,
the time zone difference would be a pain. That's the only thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't think but I think they're like maybe 5 or 6 hours difference or something like that.
Yeah, so that would be kind of late. Yeah, no, that's wild. That's interesting. And then so I saw you played for Seattle your last year. What intrigued you about going there?
You know what? Actually, it came down to the line as far as if I would re-sign with Philly or sign with Seattle. I decided to sign with Seattle. Actually, Ray Rhodes, who was the head coach in Philly, was the defensive coordinator at the time in Seattle. So we had a relationship, and I felt like I could trust him, and it was a good situation. Mike Holmgren was the head coach at the time, and he was a great guy. I mean, he has a nice. As a matter of fact, Ray Rhodes came from his coaching tree. Andy Reid came from his coaching tree, and so I felt like it was a great situation for me.
Was that before? Marshawn wasn't there yet, right?
He wasn't there yet. No, we had Sean. We had Sean Alexander.
He gets slept on, in my opinion. I don't think people talking about Sean Alexander. How good he was.
Sean was a baller. I mean, I forgot what year that was. So, what year was that? He won the MVP. That was either 2006 or 2007. I mean, so when you get MVP of the league, like you can't sleep on that.
No, I think he's in the DC area now. I don't know. It's wild. That's interesting. That's wild. And then I saw you went to the NFL honors this year. Did you go to the Super Bowl too? This past
year? I went. Yeah, so I went to and that was actually my first time like going to a Super Bowl.
Oh, really?
Because out of all of the prior, even when I was playing. Especially like toward
you can't go support another team. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was real sentimental for a numerous amount of reasons. Yeah. Well, Miami, that's where my wife is. That's where she grew up. And so to be able to take her to NFL honors and do the whole red carpet thing, Steve Harvey was hilarious again. I think it was like his second year hosting it. And then to actually go to the actual game, to be on the sideline, and I was there just to cheer and root on Andy.
Yeah.
I mean, because Andy, he put in a lot of great years in Philly. There are a lot of guys that were on the staff. Eric Bieniemy, we played together in Philadelphia. Steve Spagnuolo, he was our safeties coach in Philadelphia, who was the defensive coordinator for Kansas City. So it was like family over there. So to be a part of it, and then, I mean, I was on the sideline when J-Lo was performing. So, hey, I mean, it's like, come on now. I mean, who would want to miss that?
It's better than the game.
Right?
That's wild. That's incredible. I can't even – I still want to know how they get all this stuff out there and so quickly and they get it all.
I mean, to sit there and just actually watch them bring it all out. And
there's probably sprinting. They're probably like, awesome. Well, we gotta go.
Yeah, it's like Transformers. When you look at, it's a small little box, and then they open it up, and it's a full stage and pyro. I mean, it's crazy. But the experience was second to none. I mean, it was funny because after the halftime show, I told the wife, I said, "Hey, let's go ahead and get out of here before the traffic gets bad." We got back to our hotel, watched the final quarter at the hotel, didn't have to worry about traffic. So, I mean, that was the best of both worlds.
I heard the airport after a Super Bowl is an absolute nightmare.
It was. So we left that next day, Monday morning. It was pretty crowded. It was pretty crowded. It wasn't bad as I thought it would be, but it was pretty crowded.
It's probably because you're in a good location like Miami. Like people are going there, they're probably staying for a couple more days. But they're having a game. They had the game at MetLife a couple years ago. People are getting the hell out of it. I remember it was snowing. Wow.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That's crazy.
That's wild. And I saw you're still involved with the league today. I saw you're.
So right now, so 2 years ago, they created a Legends Youth Advisory Committee, And so I was chose along with some other former players, Willie McGinnis, Deion Sanders, Trent Dilfer, Nate. Nate is a part of it. Who else is that? Man, so it's probably about 9 or 10 of us.
Oh, cool.
Trent Dilfer. Who else? I mean, I'm drawing a blank right now, but we all work together well together. And really, our initiative is to help grow the game from a youth perspective. And so, you know, we're heavily involved. We all are heavily involved in the youth football space, whether it's training, being a part of the 7-on-7 scene. A couple of guys on the committee are high school coaches, and we're just a part of just trying to help promote the game because, as you know, especially after the post concussion and all of that, you know, the game has been under attack. Yeah. And so, you know, we just try to use all of the research, science, or what have you. There are a lot of former players as well all over the country that are coaching in youth football from high school to junior high, you know, all of the resources that we have. As a matter of fact, this past combines in Indianapolis, all of the 32 clubs nominated a former player who are currently coaching in the youth space and invited them back to Indianapolis. And we had our first Legends coaches clinic.
Oh, cool.
And really, it's all about just trying to help them be successful. You know, empowering them with information. We had some current general managers come back and speak to the guys. And so it was very impactful because, you know, there are guys all over the country that, you know, have a special skill set that, you know, they played the game for a long amount of time. They have a passion for kids and they're helping teaching the game because what they're doing is helping feeding the system moving forward when it comes to future NFL players. And so it's something that I'm very proud to be a part of. I normally stay very, very busy during this time, definitely during the summertime, but obviously with the whole pandemic that's going on, we haven't been able to travel as much, but you know, we spend a lot of time pivoting, getting on Zoom calls like we're doing right now. And so it's just fun, just being able to help the guys be successful in their current markets.
What do you think is going to be like with a lot of these high school kids not playing their senior years? What do you think that's going to be like?
Yeah, that's tough because, you know, like I said, we're in Texas.
Yeah.
And, you know, we probably outside of Florida, California, we're right there together as far as the per capita, like how many high schools that we have in our state. Yeah. And so right now in our state, we have 6 classifications. And the top 4, they're starting now. And their games they're gonna try to play them. And then the 2 top classifications, 5A and 6A, they've been bumped back for about 3 or 4 weeks, and they'll be trying to crank up in September. And so, I mean, I just have my fingers crossed as far as if they can sustain it. But, you know, I'm typically a glass half full thinking type person. Yeah. But I just feel like it's going to be tough, especially when you look at the high school. They don't necessarily have the resources, maybe some of the colleges that are able to test kids, you know, 2 to 3, 4 times a week. All you need is one small breakout. And, I mean, it's over because, you know, I would hate for that to be on my conscience as far as making a decision to play. And you have one of these high school kids get sick. And you know, have to be in a hospital and just things of that nature. You just don't want that on your track record.
Yeah, I think that's sort of like Big 12, Big 10 and Pac-12. That's got to be on the back of their mind. Especially they said there's a chance you could get some underlying like lung issue, and like you can't.
I think lung or heart,
you can't deal with
and it's, you know, and I look at it like this: if I was a senior, like I would probably want to play.
Really interesting.
You know, I would probably want to play. You know, even though that there are some potential health risks. And, you know, I just think we're just in uncharted territory. And, you know, when we think about it, because I look at all of these kids that are in high school, like they're our babies. Yeah. And, you know, we want to try to protect them as much as we can. Yeah. But I know on the flip side, you know, a lot of these kids are looking at it like, well, you know, I could potentially maybe have a breakout senior season to get discovered, to possibly get a scholarship to play somewhere. And so, it's a tough argument back and forth.
Look at Burrow. Like, if he doesn't play last year, he's not drafted.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that was such a powerful tweet that he put out there. He's like, look, if I don't have my senior season, I'm looking for a job. And that's real. Yeah, and that's the and that's the unfortunate part of these uncharted territories that we're in right now.
Do you think there's any chance some of the conference are saying we're going to do spring football? Do you think that's happening or not?
No, I don't think so. Because I just think, I mean, I think for one, it's just too dangerous. Because you would be potentially playing almost 20 games within probably 10 months, and so I just think that that's too dangerous. I mean, I think that's wishful thinking, and it's probably that decision probably was made just to maybe eliminate some of the potential flack that it could have came from, them saying, well, look, we're just canceling this season, period. It's a wash. We're going to crank it back up next year.
Yeah.
And then you got to look at recruiting as well. Just think about those schools that are in those conferences making that type of announcement. That could potentially affect recruiting as well. And so, there are so many factors just from a health standpoint, from a social standpoint, and even from a mental standpoint as well. Because, mentally, that's something that should be considered as well when you're thinking about these kids. Because I know it's tough. I know it's tough for them right now.
Yeah, especially the thing about especially these guys like NBA that's been in the bubble for a month. Like, you're probably going nuts. You can't do anything.
Yeah, I'm actually just sitting back watching the commitment.
Yeah, it's incredible
that those guys have had. I mean, you have to take your hat off to them.
Yeah,
because these are multimillionaires. They're used to they're all of their 5-star restaurants and going back to their big homes and things of that nature. And then more importantly, just being away from their families. And so, but all of the NBA, they did it right. I mean, you look at all of the amenities they've tried to, and just the pure money that they've spent. And then I think it's been very thoughtful as well, because I've seen a couple of videos as far as, how they brought in chefs. They have the different barbers, get your massages, and just all of those type of real creative things and thoughtful things to help them be as comfortable as possible. And when you sit and you look at when LeBron, he's doing his interviews, Damian Lillard doing his interviews, and I mean, these guys are totally dialed in. And when you have your superstars totally dialed in and committed, I mean, I think that's a great step right there. And it's easier for, some of the lesser role players and things of that nature to, just fall in line.
Yeah, because I think with this NBA bubble, we're going to get two things at the end of it that I don't think. One of the things everybody expected, we're going to crown a champion. The second thing, what I think is more important, is we have the birth of Lemon Pepper Lou Williams, which never existed. Never existed. It's the best name in the NBA right now.
Right?
Lemon Pepper Lou. Those wings look incredible. Those are worth.
Yeah.
That's worth the drive.
Yeah, I saw. I've never been to Magic City, but I saw a picture of that plate, and it definitely looked delicious for sure.
If Adam Silver really gets on the other guy's good side for the finals, one night he's going to cater and just deliver those wings right to the finals.
Right.
I'm telling you, Commissioner of the Year.
Hey, look, I mean, with all of the things that they've been able to do with the virtual fans.
Yeah.
And bring, because I think I even saw Lil Wayne. He was one of
I saw that. Yeah.
He was a goat.
They had a goat on there. I'm like, what the hell you got?
Yeah, so I mean, just
Chris Bosh. I saw Chris Bosh was on there.
Yeah, just that creativity that they're bringing, to the whole game. I think all of those guys are embracing it, and they should be given credit for it. Yeah. Just because, it could have easily went a totally different way if one or two of the big guys, big superstars said, hey, no, I'm not committing to this. But you definitely have to take your hats off to those guys.
Yeah, but the basketball's been incredible. I didn't even get to see earlier. I saw that Donovan Mitchell had
it's kind of like a it's like the
NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
we didn't get it.
It's like the NCAA tournament going on for the pros, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, I have a feeling that it's going to be one and under the radar team that's going to win it all. I just have a feeling like something's going to happen, and it's going to be like a couple years ago when Dallas won it. Like I don't think it's.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Lakers Portland series just because. I mean, Portland. I mean, they're bringing it, and you know, I have a basketball background myself, and you know, when you get in those type of spaces and you're able to shoot. I mean, it's like almost doing a layup for some of those guys because, you know, they're obviously superstars and, you know, they're the best players in the world. And when you can get in that type of environment, it's not necessarily a stadium and, you know, some of the different distractions that are in the background that could possibly be there that aren't there now. I mean, I'm definitely looking at that Lakers series going 6 games at the minimum for sure.
Yeah, because the Lakers don't have any shooters. Because Bradley opted out, Rondo got hurt, and like,
and they don't. And I'm like, they one of their point guards opted out.
And Rondo's good. And,
well, Rondo is out, and then I forgot the other guy.
Avery Bradley.
Avery Bradley, he opted out.
Gone.
So the strength of Portland are their 2 guards.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're going to be applying pressure from the jump all the way to the end of the game.
Yeah, no, but it's been great. I think it's a lot of people were kind of against the idea. They're like the country has more important things, but I also think they're doing a lot of good. I know they also NBA helped fund with this new saliva test that's going to be kind of rolling out there. So I think they're doing a lot of good.
I saw that. Yeah, that was smart.
Yeah, it's
great. I think under their leadership that's a great example of like great leadership. What
100%.
You see the NBA, the NBA Players Association as well. The way that seems like from a communication standpoint, they're on the same page. And, you know, with just so much uncertainty that's out there, to be able to see that there's some definite and good dialogue between players, ownership, the commissioner, the executive director of the NBA Players Association. I mean, it's just good to see that.
I'm still wondering if I remember Kyrie said he's about to start his own league. I'm still waiting on that. But
I don't know about that one. Good luck.
Yeah, maybe they could like be in the Globetrotters League or something like that. He could be the new coach of the Washington Generals. But yeah, but this has been a lot of fun. So I really wanted to thank you again. And for people that aren't following you on social media, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm just Bobby Taylor 21, Instagram, Twitter. I mean, I'm a little old school. I'm not as probably active as I probably should be, but hey, I'm Bobby Taylor 21 on both. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks you so much for chatting. This has been a lot of fun, especially with everything going on. It's kind of good just kind of be talking sports, and hopefully football can get off without a hitch and we can have a season. So
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, man. But this has been a lot of fun. I just want to thank you again.
All right. Take care.